Gettysburg, regarded by many, including myself, to be not just one of the best war movies, but one of the greatest historical movies of all time. Not only is this one of my favorite history movies, but it's also one of my favorite movies of all time, in my top 5, easily, possibly top 3. I'll be upfront about this, this is one of the few movies I've seen that has actually made me cry. So why is it that I like this movie so much? Well, sit back, I'll tell you. Just want to let everybody know there will be spoilers in this review, so if you don't want this movie spoiled for you, stop watching now. If you've already seen it, or you don't care if it's spoiled, let's continue. This movie basically depicts the Battle of Gettysburg from both the Confederate perspective and the Union perspective, giving us insight into how both sides felt about the battle. The movie mainly focuses on 3 of the major fights that happened in this battle. First day's fighting outside the town of Gettysburg, the fight at Little Round Top that took place on the second day, and Pickett's charge on the final day of fighting. After 3 days of brutal fighting, the Confederates are defeated and withdraw from Gettysburg, leaving the war to continue for 2 more brutal years. One of the things I like most about this movie is how balanced it is. It doesn't glorify one side and villainize the other, it just tells both sides' story. Even giving us insight into both sides' motivations for fighting the war.
I want to free the slaves, of course. Preserve the Union.
I don't know about some other folk, but I ain't fighting for no darkies one way or the other. I'm fighting for my rats. All of us here, that's what we're fighting for.
For your what?
For our rats. Why is it you folks just can't live the way you want to live? And let us live the way we do? Live and let live, I heard some folks say. Be a mite less fuss and bother if more folks took it to heart.
That scene is important because it illustrates how the motivations are not as black and white as our history classes have made them out to be. You see, for the Union it was pretty clear. Their motivations were to keep the country unified and to free the slaves. But for the Confederates, the motivations are more complicated. True, for a lot of Confederates like Nathan Bedford Forrest, it was about maintaining slavery. And for the record, Nathan Bedford Forrest did not fight in the Battle of Gettysburg. But for other Confederates, such as Robert E. Lee, it was about state loyalty. A lot of people don't know that Robert E. Lee was actually very anti-slavery and anti-secession. However, he would not take up arms against his home state of Virginia. Back then, there was still a colonial mentality, and what I mean by that is it was state before country. And if you took up arms against your home state, you were basically branded a traitor and you could not return to your home state. And if you tried to return, the residents of that state would basically make your life miserable until you left. And then, of course, there was, as the prisoner of war just said, live and let live. Along with portraying both sides accurately and fairly, the movie does a good job of paying attention to detail, from the battle formations, to the dirty uniforms, to very specific events that happened during the battle, such as this. That was not Hollywood taking creative liberties. There are legitimate sources out there that say that that's how General Garnett died at the Battle of Gettysburg. Another detail I like is how they show that Colonel Lawrence Chamberlain was literally saved by his sword at Little Round Top. Clearly, the movie does a good job of telling the story accurately and presenting both sides well, so let's see how they did with acting and cinematography. The acting in this movie is absolutely superb. Everybody gives it their all and everybody performs amazingly in this movie. There is not one bad actor in this movie. Everybody's the best and everybody performs very, very, very well. One actor I will actually give special attention to is Richard Jordan. This was actually Richard Jordan's last role as he had brain cancer while this movie was being made. Sadly, he died before it got released. Rest in peace, Richard Jordan. Along with all the A-list actors that participated in this movie, let's also mention the 5,000 reenactors that came from all over the country to participate in this movie. These 5,000 reenactors played a huge role into why the cinematography looks so good. It is because of them that this entire movie uses only practical effects. That's right, no CGI was used in this movie to make the armies look bigger. What you see is authentic, it's real, and it looks amazing. Look at the scene of all the troops marching. Every single one of those people is real, not one of them is CGI. How cool is that? Especially when in most modern day movies, all troops and vast armies are CGI. To help the cinematography be more practical, many of the reenactors also brought their own muskets, uniforms, and even cannons, giving us some of the most authentic looking battle scenes I've ever seen in a movie. This movie also makes great use of camera movement, creating some great zoom-ins and pans. Check out this scene where General George Pickett tells Robert E. Lee about how his division has been destroyed.
General Pickett, sir, you must look to your division.
General Lee, I have no division.
I love this scene because the acting is very good. It portrays very well how George Pickett felt at having 2/3 of his division destroyed after Pickett's charge. And the zoom-ins also really enhance the emotion, especially when zooming into Robert E. Lee reacting to that news. Basically showing Robert E. Lee having a what have I done moment and realizing that making the charge happen was a mistake. There are many scenes where the acting and cinematography go together very well, but in my opinion that is one of the best. Both these elements are executed very well in this movie, but you can't talk about Gettysburg without also mentioning its score. Credit for this movie's score goes to Randy Edelman, who composed for many movies and TV shows including Last of the Mohicans. He does a good job of capturing the time period with songs like Dawn. He also does a good job of enhancing the battle scenes with music in scenes like Lil Round Top. Randy Edelman does a great job of writing music that captures every single scene like that, and not only does it enhance the scenes, but it makes for one great soundtrack as well. I actually own a physical copy of the soundtrack, and I highly recommend that you buy one as well. With a good combination of calm music and big orchestra, this is one soundtrack you will not forget. I gotta say, as a history lover, this movie is awesome. It stays true to the history of the battle and takes almost no creative liberties. And the use of good cinematography, acting, and practical effects makes this, in my opinion, an Oscar-worthy movie. And as I stated in the previous segment, this is a soundtrack that is a must-buy. I must warn you though, this is a long movie. It's almost 4 hours long, but it's never dull and I enjoyed every minute of it. I can definitely see why a lot of people say this is one of the greatest history movies of all time, and it's certainly worth getting on Blu-ray. Thank you guys for watching this review. Let me know what you think of this movie in the comments section below. And if you like what you've seen and would like to see more, hit the subscribe button and hit the bell as well. See you next time.